The galaxy had always seemed calm, almost peaceful, as if it were keeping secrets behind a mask of stars. Humans had grown up listening to stories of distant worlds and alien species, learning that space was full of wonders but also dangers. Yet for all its beauty, the galaxy felt distant, silent, and carefully controlled. No one showed their full strength. No one revealed their true intentions. Until now. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, the flagship of a small human exploration fleet. Her eyes traced the endless expanse of stars stretching before them. Each star was a potential home, a possible danger, a story waiting to be told. She had spent her life traveling the galaxy, studying alien cultures and observing the intricate balance between species. Humans were young in the grand scheme of things, yet they had a unique gift, the ability to see clearly and act decisively. Captain, Lieutenant Kiro's voice broke the soft hum of the engines. We are receiving a signal. It's unlike anything we've seen before. No known language, no known frequency. Ilara frowned, leaning closer to the communications panel. Her instincts told her this was more than a random signal. It carried emotion, a pulse she could feel in her chest. Fear, desperation, and something heavier she couldn't name. Humans were sensitive in ways other species often overlooked. They didn't just listen. They felt. Can it be translated? Asked Dr. Malin, the ship's xenobiologist, adjusting his glasses nervously. Or is it some kind of trap? Both possibilities exist, Ilara replied, her voice calm but firm. Prepare defensive systems, but don't panic. We observe first. Humans do not act out of fear. They act with clarity. The crew moved with practiced precision. Wires were rerouted, shields were tested, and communication channels opened to their allies. Every human aboard worked with quiet determination, steady hands, and unshakable focus. Unlike the galaxy's other species, humans did not crumble under uncertainty. They adapted. They survived because they refused to be ruled by fear. As the ship approached the signal's source, the stars around them seemed to dim. A shadow stretched across space, vast and suffocating. Ilara's heart quickened. From the darkness emerged an alien fleet, unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Their ships were massive, black and silent, moving with the confidence of predators. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Other species might have fled in terror, hiding behind diplomacy or deceit. Humans, however, felt something different. Curiosity surged alongside courage. Where others saw doom, humans saw a challenge, a test of their spirit, their ingenuity, their heart. The alien fleet's leader transmitted a message. The words were incomprehensible at first, but the emotion behind them was clear. Power, dominance, and a warning. The galaxy had spent millennia hiding its true nature, concealing weaknesses and plotting behind polite faces. And now, that mask was falling. Ilara clenched her jaw, her eyes steady on the looming ships. We've always been underestimated, she said softly, mostly to herself. But now, they will see humanity for what we truly are. The crew felt it too, a mixture of fear and exhilaration, the knowledge that they were about to witness the galaxy's secrets unfold. Humans were not the oldest species nor the most powerful, but they had a strength that no one else could match: honesty, courage, and the ability to act when all others hesitated. As the horizon's edge edged closer, the alien fleet's presence seemed to fill the void, suffocating yet mesmerizing. And in that moment, the quiet of the galaxy shattered. The calm before revelation ended. A new chapter was about to begin, and humans were at its center. Ilara took a deep breath and whispered, "This is it. This is the moment everything changes." Every eye on the bridge, human and alien alike, focused on the shadow ahead. The galaxy had stopped hiding its true nature, and the humans, the quiet observers of countless worlds, were ready to meet it head-on. The nebula confluence was unlike any station humans had ever seen. Orbiting a dying star, it glimmered like a jewel in the void, a neutral ground for the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Alien delegates moved with precision, their long limbs and strange features reflecting centuries of careful diplomacy. But now, as the signal from the Black Fleet spread through the station, the polished calm dissolved. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Captain Ilara Vance watched the holographic display of the incoming ships. Their shapes were jagged and alien, black as void, and they exuded a presence that made even seasoned alien generals pause. Some delegates whispered frantically to one another. Others checked their weapons, eyes wide with fear. Alara's gaze remained steady. She understood the emotion behind the signal. Fear, not just for their lives, but for the secrets they had hidden for millennia. Every species had masks. Every species had vulnerabilities. And now the masks were falling. Dr. Malin adjusted the communication matrix. They're not speaking in words we can understand, but their intent is clear. They want control. They want to test us. They want to see who will falter. Then let them watch, Alara said quietly, her voice calm but resolute. Humans do not hide behind fear. We act, we endure, and we survive. Lieutenant Kiro, standing beside her, clenched his fists. It's like the galaxy's entire history is coming to life all at once. All those lies, betrayals, treaties, they mean nothing now. Across the station, panic began to spread. The elders of the Velari species, usually composed and regal, fumbled with communication panels. The Trivac Council, known for their cunning, whispered frantically among themselves. And the humans, they moved with purpose, repairing damaged systems, assisting delegates, and coordinating defensive strategies. Their calm competence contrasted sharply with the chaos around them. Alara took a deep breath. Every species is showing their true face, she said to her crew. Some show fear, some show pride, some show deceit, but we show clarity. Dr. Malin nodded, his eyes reflecting both awe and relief. Humans have always been underestimated. Others see our youth, our small numbers, and they think we are fragile. But this is our strength. No one can predict our courage. As the alien fleet approached, the station's defenses were tested. Energy shields hummed, warning alarms blared, and holographic displays flashed with incoming threats. Delegates argued and blamed one another, revealing alliances and betrayals that had been hidden for centuries. Humans, however, remained steady. They did not panic. They did not retreat. They acted. Alara's voice rang out over the comms. Prepare the forward shields. Reinforce the sectors near the docking bays. We move together. No one acts alone. The calm, precise efficiency of humans began to shift the energy on the station. Even the alien delegates paused, watching in disbelief as humans took control without domination. Where other species relied on intimidation, deception, or trickery, humans relied on honesty, courage, and coordination. And it worked. Somewhere deep in the station, whispers began to spread among the aliens. Why do they not fear? Asked a young Velari diplomat. Why are they not panicking? The answer was simple, and terrifying to those who had spent millennia hiding their weaknesses. Humans did not fear exposure. Humans did not hide. Humans acted with integrity, and integrity was a power the galaxy had rarely seen. Alara leaned on the railing of the bridge, staring at the approaching fleet. They are testing us, she murmured. But we have nothing to hide, and that is our advantage. As the stars stretched around the station, the galaxy's pretense cracked. For the first time, every species could see the truth. Not just the fearsome fleet, but the hidden fears and ambitions of each other. And in the midst of that revelation, humans stood firm, unshaken, and ready. The moment had come. The galaxy could no longer hide its true nature, and humans were the spark that would reveal it all. The quiet hum of the nebula confluence shattered in an instant. Without warning, the Black Fleet unleashed its first attack. Beams of energy lanced through the void, cutting toward the station with deadly precision. Alarms screamed, warning lights flashed, and the air seemed to thrum with tension. Alien delegates screamed orders in languages no one else understood. Their polished calm replaced by sheer panic. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Captain Alara Vance stood with a steady gaze, her hands gripping the console. Brace for impact, she commanded. But unlike the others, her voice carried no fear, only clarity and resolve. Humans thrived in chaos, adapting where others faltered. Lieutenant Kiro maneuvered the ship with precision. Small defensive drones swarmed around the station, intercepting incoming fire. Yet the scale of the attack was immense, and even human efficiency was tested. This is worse than anything we imagined, muttered Dr. Malin, monitoring the structural integrity of the station. Other species, they're collapsing. They don't know how to handle this. Ilara's eyes hardened. Then we will show them. She turned to the crew. Humans, deploy all defense measures. Keep calm, keep moving, and protect every sector. The galaxy may fear us, but we will not falter. Every human aboard acted with precision and purpose. Engineers rerouted power to damaged shields, medics rushed to assist injured delegates, and communications officers relayed vital updates to every corner of the station. Where others froze in panic, humans moved forward with quiet determination. The alien delegates looked on in disbelief. Valari commanders, who had orchestrated fleets of thousands in the past, now stumbled. Trifitoi. Act generals argued with one another, revealing cracks in centuries-old alliances. And humans? They were the eye of the storm, focused, unyielding, and unexpectedly strong. Alara directed a small squadron of human fighters. "We strike their flanks," she ordered. "Hit where they think we cannot. Show them that courage outweighs size and number." The squadron moved like shadows, darting between massive cruisers. With clever maneuvers and precise strikes, they disabled communication relays, causing confusion in the enemy ranks. Alien captains barked orders that no one could follow. The Black Fleet, for all its intimidation, began to falter. On the bridge, Kiro couldn't hide his awe. They're adapting faster than anyone else. Faster than the others, faster than expected. Dr. Mullen nodded, his voice trembling. This is what humans do. We don't just survive, we endure. We act when all others hesitate. The station itself seemed to respond to human efforts. Sections once on the brink of destruction stabilized. Fire and damage were controlled. Injured delegates were rescued. And slowly the tide of panic began to shift. Where chaos had ruled, order was restored. Not through fear, not through brute strength, but through the unwavering determination of humans. Alara's voice rang through the comms once more. "Hold your ground. Protect the station. Every life matters. Humans fight not for conquest, but for survival, for hope, and for truth." The words carried weight. Aliens, for all their power, were stunned. They had expected humans to break, to beg, to hide, but the humans stood firm. The young species, underestimated for centuries, had become the anchor in a storm that no one else could calm. As the first clash ended, the Black Fleet withdrew slightly, confused and disoriented. The Nebula confluence remained standing. The delegates were shaken but alive, and the humans, though exhausted, had proven something undeniable. Courage was stronger than fear, and clarity was more powerful than deception. Alara leaned against the console, sweat on her brow, but her gaze unwavering. "The galaxy has underestimated us for too long," she whispered. "Now they will see what humanity can do when it refuses to hide." In that moment, a truth spread quietly but powerfully across the station. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were a force to be reckoned with, a force that acted with honesty, bravery, and relentless determination. The first clash was over, but the war for the galaxy's hidden truths had only just begun. The battle raged on, but the tide was slowly shifting. The Black Fleet, so terrifying and overwhelming at first, began to show cracks in its formation. The aliens behind the fleet were not perfect. They were clever, yes, but they had been hiding their weaknesses for centuries, and now those weaknesses were exposed. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, eyes scanning the chaotic holographic map of the battlefield. Her mind worked quickly, connecting the dots that others could not see. "Look here," she said, pointing to a narrow corridor between two massive cruisers. "It's small, almost invisible, but if we strike here, we force them to expose their command vessels. That's our chance." Lieutenant Kiro's eyes widened. "You really think we can do it? One wrong move and we could be destroyed." Ilara's voice was calm, unwavering. "We have no choice. Humans act when others hesitate. We adapt where others fail. That is our strength. Trust me." The crew moved with a precision born of years of training and discipline. Every engineer, pilot, and medic knew their role. Humans were not the largest or the strongest species in the galaxy, but they were organized, relentless, and fearless. Small human fighter squadrons darted through the narrow corridor, avoiding detection and dodging enemy fire. Each ship was guided by intuition, strategy, and the unshakable determination to succeed. When one fighter was hit, another took its place without hesitation. Human ingenuity and courage were at work, and the Black Fleet began to falter. Across the station, alien delegates watched in disbelief. The Valari generals, who had once commanded fleets with absolute control, were now panicked. Their ships collided, misfired, and disorganized. The Trivac commanders shouted at one another, struggling to maintain unity. And all the while, humans moved steadily, almost effortlessly, through the chaos. Dr. Milan observed with awe. They are fast, smart, and fearless. Other species rely on size, on fear, on tricks. Humans rely on courage, honesty, and intelligence. That's why they endure. The strike through the corridor worked. Communications among the Black Fleet began to fail. Confusion spread like wildfire. Ships fired on their own allies by mistake. Orders were misheard. Alliances broke, and the once terrifying formation crumbled. Alara's voice rang through the comms. Push forward. We are the eye of this storm. Where others see danger, we see opportunity. Humanity acts when the galaxy hesitates. Remember that. Even the aliens who had been observing humans closely were shaken. They had always thought humans were weak, insignificant, and easy to manipulate. But now they realized that humans had something no other species could match. The courage to act with truth and purpose, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As the battle continued, the horizon's edge led a final strike into the heart of the fleet. The alien ships faltered, unable to respond to the coordinated human tactics. One by one, the Black Fleet withdrew, retreating into the shadows from which it had come. The Nebula Confluence survived the attack, battered but standing. Alara exhaled, allowing herself a brief moment of relief. Her crew, exhausted but determined, shared her quiet pride. This is only the beginning, she said softly. The galaxy has hidden its true nature for millennia. But now the truth is out, and humans are ready to face it. Across the station, whispers of amazement spread. Humans had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome fear, deception, and overwhelming power. The first victory was not just over the enemy fleet, but over the doubts and underestimation the galaxy had long placed on humanity. For the first time, humans were not just participants in the galaxy's games. They were leaders, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. Alara looked at the stars, her heart steady and proud. We've shown them who we are, she whispered. Now we show them what humanity can truly do. The turning point had arrived. The Black Fleet had retreated, but the real challenge, the unveiling of the galaxy's hidden truths, was just beginning. And humans were ready. The Nebula Confluence was quiet now, but the silence was heavy, almost trembling. The Black Fleet had retreated, leaving destruction behind, but more importantly, leaving truths exposed. Alien delegates moved cautiously through the station, their faces a mixture of fear, shame, and awe. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy could no longer hide behind politeness or deception. The masks were gone. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, her posture calm, yet every eye in the room felt the quiet power of her presence. Humans had survived the first clash, they had turned the tide, and now they were witnesses to the galaxy's hidden nature. Alara had always known humans were underestimated, but seeing it play out before her eyes was astonishing. Other species had spent millennia hiding greed, pride, and fear. Now everything was laid bare. Dr. Malin whispered almost to himself. Every species is showing who they truly are. Their alliances, their betrayals, everything, Alara nodded. And humans are showing who we truly are too. We do not hide. We do not deceive. We act with courage and honesty. That is our strength. Across the station, the aliens began to argue and reveal secrets they had kept for centuries. The Valari admitted to hiding entire fleets for personal gain, while the Trivac confessed to sabotaging allies in past wars. Secrets spilled like water from a broken vessel, and amidst it all, humans moved with clarity and purpose, offering aid and coordination, bridging gaps that had been festering for centuries. Lieutenant Kiro shook his head in disbelief. They thought fear and deception ruled the galaxy, but they didn't count on humans standing openly, without hiding, without hesitation. Alara's eyes softened as she watched the young human engineers repair damaged stations and assist alien civilians. We are not the oldest. We are not the strongest. But we are willing to act when others cannot. That is why we endure, and why we will always be noticed. Delegates from several species began to approach the humans, not with hostility, but with cautious respect. They had seen how humans faced overwhelming odds and survived. They had seen how humans led when the galaxy had faltered, and they were realizing something vital. Humans were more than observers. They were a standard, a mirror showing the galaxy the power of truth and courage. Dr. Malin smiled faintly. I think they are beginning to understand. Humans don't just survive chaos. We inspire calm. We inspire hope. We inspire change. Ilara placed a hand on the rail, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond the station. The galaxy has spent millennia hiding its true nature, but now the moment of revelation is here, and we, humans, are at the center of it, not by force, not by fear, but by the truth of who we are. Even some of the most cunning alien leaders lowered their heads slightly in acknowledgement. They had underestimated humans for too long. Now they were forced to respect a species that acted with honesty, courage, and relentless determination. The revelation spread beyond the station. Sensors and communications channels transmitted images and messages across nearby systems. Other species watched in awe as human. Coordinated defenses, stabilized damage, and mediated disputes. The galaxy could no longer pretend. It could no longer hide weaknesses, ambitions, and flaws behind layers of diplomacy and deceit. Ilara looked at her crew, each one tired but steadfast. "Remember this moment," she said quietly, but every word carried weight. "This is the moment the galaxy learns the power of truth, courage, and humanity. Our actions today will echo across the stars for centuries. We are not just survivors. We are a force that inspires others to rise above fear and deceit." The humans did not celebrate. There was no arrogance, no boasting. Instead, there was quiet pride, a recognition that their courage and clarity had made a difference. And in that quiet moment, the galaxy began to shift. For the first time, every species could see clearly. Humans acted openly, bravely, and with heart. And that simple truth, so easy to underestimate, was more powerful than any fleet, weapon, or threat the galaxy had ever known. Ilara's voice softened as she whispered to herself, almost like a promise to the stars. The galaxy has revealed itself, and humanity will rise in its light. The aftermath of the revelation at the nebula confluence spread faster than anyone could have predicted. Across the galaxy, word of humanity's courage and clarity traveled through comm channels, satellites, and word of mouth. Systems that had once scoffed at humans, dismissed their small fleets, and ignored their young species, now paused in awe. Humanity, underestimated for centuries, had become a symbol of integrity and resilience. Captain Ilara Vance stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, her eyes scanning the stars, which seemed brighter now, as if reflecting the hope humans had sparked. Around her, the crew moved quietly but confidently. They had seen the first battle, the chaos of the fleet, the exposure of the galaxy's hidden nature, and they had survived. They had not only survived, they had inspired. Lieutenant Kiro adjusted the navigation controls. "Captain, more ships are responding. They are not hostile. They want to observe, maybe even cooperate." Ilara smiled faintly. "That's because humans act differently. We don't strike first. We don't hide behind fear. We lead by courage and example. That's something the galaxy hasn't seen before." Dr. Malin, standing beside her, shook his head in disbelief. "It's incredible. Entire systems are changing how they interact. Where once they relied on deception and intimidation, now they're seeking guidance. Humans have become the standard, without even asking for it." Across the confluence, delegates who had barely survived the Black Fleet attack began to look at humans with something new. Respect. Some approached quietly, seeking advice on strategy, diplomacy, and repair. Others shared information they had previously kept secret. Humans had not demanded loyalty or submission. They had earned it through courage, action, and heart. Ilara watched as human engineers assisted alien technicians with repairs, explaining their methods simply and clearly. "They're teaching more than just repairs," she said softly. "They're teaching trust, cooperation, and clarity. That's far more powerful than any weapon." The galaxy responded in ripple-like waves. Messages of admiration and requests for guidance traveled from system to system. Species that had been at odds for centuries now paused, considering the human example. Young cadets on distant planets whispered stories of bravery. Speaking of humans who stood unafraid, who acted decisively, and who inspired change simply by being true to themselves. Even hardened generals, who had spent decades in secretive war councils, found themselves humbled. They realized the humans had achieved what fleets and weapons could not, a force of influence that spread hope and unity instead of fear. Humanity had become a mirror, showing the galaxy that courage and truth were stronger than deception and dominance. Ilara's voice broke her thoughts. "Prepare the communications. Send messages of support and mediation to neighboring systems. We must continue to act with integrity, not just fight with strength." Lieutenant Kiro nodded. The galaxy is listening. They're learning from us. For the first time, humans understood the power of who they were, not just what they could build, or the fleets they could command. They had become leaders without conquest, symbols without arrogance, and heroes without desire for glory. Humanity's ripple effect was changing minds, hearts, and alliances across countless worlds. Dr. Malin's voice softened, full of quiet awe. They'll never underestimate us again, not just because of our strength, but because of our courage, our honesty, and our willingness to act when others cannot. Ilara took a deep breath, gazing at the stars stretching endlessly before them. The galaxy is learning, slowly but surely. Systems that once fought for power are now asking for guidance. The moment of revelation was just the beginning. Now humanity inspires change. Around her, the crew felt a quiet pride. There was no celebration, no boasting. Just the calm knowledge that they had acted with courage and integrity, and the galaxy had seen it. The ripple of human influence was spreading, touching every corner of the stars, reshaping the way civilizations viewed courage, honesty, and strength. Ilara whispered to herself, her eyes glistening with determination. We didn't conquer them. We didn't need to. We led by example, and that is how humanity will rise across the stars. And so the galaxy slowly began to shift. Where fear and deception had ruled, hope and courage now took root. Humanity, once young and underestimated, had become the standard by which the galaxy measured its own potential. Years had passed since the moment the galaxy had stopped hiding its true nature. The Black Fleet had never returned, and the systems that once relied on fear and deception now looked to humans for guidance, respect, and inspiration. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy with weapons or force. They had conquered it with courage, clarity, and unshakable truth. Captain Ilara Vance, now older, stood on the bridge of a new human flagship. Her hair carried streaks of silver, but her eyes were just as sharp and determined as the day she had first faced the Black Fleet. Around her, cadets trained, engineers worked, and diplomats communicated with dozens of species across the stars. Humanity had grown, not in size alone, but in influence and respect. Lieutenant Kiro, who had grown into a senior officer, approached her. Captain, incoming message from the Andari system. They want to join the coalition under human guidance. Ilara smiled softly. Send them a reply. Tell them we will help, but also teach them to stand on their own. Humanity leads by example, not by control. The bridge was quiet yet full of purpose. Humans had become the standard for courage and honesty, the mirror through which the galaxy now measured itself. Every species, once cloaked in fear, greed, and pride, now had a choice, to continue hiding or to rise to their better nature. And it was humanity that showed them the way. Dr. Malin stood nearby, observing the activity with pride. It's remarkable, he said quietly. Humans didn't need to dominate. They simply acted, and the galaxy followed their example. Our courage inspired trust, and our honesty inspired hope. Ilara turned her gaze to the stars, her heart filled with both quiet pride and deep emotion. We didn't ask for recognition, she whispered. We didn't want war or power. We simply acted as humans must, truthfully, bravely, without hesitation. And now the galaxy has learned from us. Reports from distant worlds poured in. Systems that had once waged secret wars now cooperated. Species that had been rivals for centuries now shared technology, medicine, and knowledge. Where deception had ruled, diplomacy and mutual respect took root. Humanity's actions had created a ripple that grew into a wave. Reshaping the galaxy itself, cadets moved past the bridge, listening to Ilara's calm voice, absorbing lessons not from textbooks, but from the living example of courage and truth. They knew that strength was not measured in weapons but in heart. They knew that fear could be overcome by clarity, and that honesty could inspire entire civilizations. Ilara's voice softened as she addressed the young crew. Remember this, power is meaningless without truth. Fear can control armies, but courage can change worlds. Every action you take, every choice you make will echo across the stars. Humanity endured because we refused to hide, and now it is our duty to ensure the galaxy remembers that lesson. Lieutenant Kiro placed a hand on her shoulder. The galaxy already knows, Captain. It will never forget humanity. Ilara nodded, eyes glistening. Then we continue. We guide, we teach, and we inspire. Not through domination, not through fear, but through example. In that quiet moment, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. Humanity had proven that even a young, underestimated species could rise above every expectation. They had faced overwhelming odds, revealed the galaxy's hidden truths, and acted with clarity and courage when all others faltered. And the galaxy, for the first time in millennia, truly understood the power of humanity, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as a species that inspired hope, unity, and bravery. Alara took a deep breath and looked out into the vast expanse of space. "We are human," she whispered. "We endure, we act, and we rise." The moment the galaxy had stopped hiding its true nature had become humanity's triumph, and humanity would never forget the lesson they had shown. Courage, honesty, and heart were the greatest powers of all. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of possibilities, challenges, and hope. And humans, once quiet observers, now stood as the guiding light of the galaxy.